internships that they offer. And that's why if they use the right formula, they can create a high ROI, return on investment, student mentoring internship program. And I think that's the key for companies, but the beauty is the return is for everybody. So let's begin and try to understand this. So first question, for those of you who might ask this question, I suspect most of the people today who are on this webinar understand it. Why should we care about student mentoring? Well, we have a real crisis in this country. 16% of youth are unemployed. More than twice the number of people who are unemployed in this country. But I'll give you a number that's even higher. You see the associated study that 50% of all college kids can't find jobs matching their skills. That really comes from the fact that they're looking for what are the skills qualify them for and what should they be able to do. McKinsey did a recent study, and the one in the article that I can send you a copy of is Accenture did the same thing, has done such a study, and they're all finding approximately 40% of all college students, we're not talking about kids that don't even make it to college, college students are underperforming, which means they're taking jobs which they don't need the degree they've got. Now, with the amount of money we're spending to help these students get that education, and the amount of energy they spend doing it and dedication to trying to do well, to be able to get the wrong kinds of jobs, flipping hamburgers, for example, that's our problem. And that's a real long-term problem that we have in this country. And the solution, as you're going to see, is not in the schools. We're having trouble teaching them the 3 R's, but it's really in companies, giving them what companies today are looking for, experience. Experience in learning about the workplace, learning about their own skill sets, learning about what career might mean in a certain area, etc. And so what we need to do is make a difference, and that's the beautiful part about it, which is what led to Mentor Our Kids. It's an opportunity for each of us to make a significant difference in our society, kids' life, and companies' lives by doing the right thing. And the reason we've taken this focus, originally we were called One Intern Power, focusing on the intern, is we discovered that the only reason companies will really get involved is they realize they benefit. And when I talk to the advanced companies that are doing something wonderful, not just having 3 interns for the summer out of 500 employees, but having on a regular basis hundreds, literally tens of employees, let's call it, tens of interns working in a large company. They're finding what's great about it is that it helps the company in recruiting, because you're identifying new talented employees and you're answering a real critical question, not about the skills. When you think about all the recruitment effort that takes place today, resumes, interviews, etc., it's usually focused on skill sets, but it's not about that, because we can really measure that a lot, but we can't measure is fit. Do these people fit into your culture? Will they get along well with your people? Will they understand the tempo of your workforce? Those are the real questions, and the only way you get that answer is by having them actually work with them. It's amazing how many employees, when they're hired, don't fit, and within 90 days have to get fired, or even worse, later get fired because they don't fit. Now you can do that at roughly $10 an hour, a bargain, to answer the question. I know of a particular company that's in the wealth management business that told me their secret sauce of why they're growing absolutely so fast, absolutely incredible speed rate, is he says every year about February, we get some of the top people around the country who apply. We get 250 applicants. We knock it down to about 10. We make a decision to take anywhere between 3 and 5. We then good, and then we bring them in all 5 years, and these are superstars. This company is growing at over 50% per year. So it tells you the power of doing it right. The second part is, if you're a company that doesn't have a diverse culture, you're missing out on great opportunities to learn from people who see things differently, who discuss things differently, who conceptualize differently. Young people, specifically millennials, we talk about them as problems. They're not. They actually have a different perspective on life and values. Sometimes a value to an entire company, sometimes a value to a department. If you get their perspectives and their skill set, they probably know more about social media than we do. you can find that they can help a lot. Third, there are many people in a company that would love to know more. They want to know how to answer a question so they can provide a better quality of service or a product, and so they need to do special research. How do they do that special research? Well, one of the ways is by engaging interns who have the time and can work a little slower to figure out the answer and realize they can make a really significant difference to the company by being able to do this. My initial launch in this area for being a mentor and providing interns with an opportunity to do research was working in the healthcare arena, where I had tons of interns over a 5-year period working with me, working in clinics, doing all kinds of things to answer some critical quality questions that we never would have gotten to the answer to, and actually revolutionized both the care in certain places and the actual process of processing what we call consumers, not patients, because they were getting active and wanted to be seen quicker. And we came up with something called the functional clinic model of how to structure it so that they got in and out much faster, all coming from the interns, working with me and other people as mentors, doctors, research people, etc. So the entire company can increase its productivity if it does it right. It's obviously productive because you're paying these people less than the normal going rate for someone who's a graduate of college, because they're not graduating, they're still interns while they're doing it. If you're in a community and you're bringing in lots of interns, I have one member who, one of our team, who's told me his company has had about 200 interns, and he's very proud of that. He says what happens is they learn all about what he does, and it's a recruitment issue, and he says they become brand ambassadors, and I think that's true. I know I've had over 500 interns, high school, college, graduate, U.S. and international, over the last 15, 20 years, and depending on which company they've worked for, everything from Congress to my own companies, they are brand ambassadors. And finally, it's a great way to give back. If you really care about people, you want to be a really good corporate citizen, if you create a program which we'll describe, which is an ongoing, sustainable program that costs very little to operate and gives much more, so your ROI is incredibly high, that's a much better corporate citizen than giving a few gifts at the end of the year, or a few volunteers that do it, or sponsoring one student in a 1,000-employee pool. You can do more, and that's what today is really all about. Not only does your company benefit, but most important, obviously, the students benefit. Now, if you don't believe me, don't trust me. Just take a look at some of the people on this list that you may know. Hundreds we've held together who've given quotes at some point in their history and said, you know something, an internship made the difference for me in choosing what my profession is, building my self-confidence, finding the kind of work I might want to do, and doing it well. Everything from Bill Gates to Oprah Winfrey, all kinds of people have been doing it. It's been a phenomenal thing. And whether they worked for their father's company or Congress or for a weather person on a TV station, it helps people figure out what they want to do, build self-confidence, and in today's day where culture is so important, learn about the soft skills as well as the hard skills. For example, I've had people who are pre-med who've worked with me and didn't really know what they want to do, and because I work in healthcare and I've done it in a number of places, from Congress to clinics and centers that are providing care, I put them in positions where they've learned so much more about how to do it and recognize that it's more than just a technician on a body, but it's really a relationship you build, educationally supportive, and it makes a difference. And for many of them, they switch their business practice, their career practices within the area to do more. The problem is we're not doing enough. When I first launched Mentor Our Kids, I did a conversation. I remember in a rather large advertising agency, about 400 people. CEO was sitting there, comes over and says, I think what you're doing is great, but I want you to know we do this and we're really terrific at it. And so I'm just telling you, we're supportive if you ever need it. And about 4 or 5 months later, I get an email saying, I did an count. We take 4 students over the summer. That's it. You're right. We could be doing more all year round. Thanks for making me aware. Here's the interesting part. For the last year or so, the conversation, if you've read it in the media, has all been about paying interns, and that's missing the point. Clearly, what people want, especially the interns, is not so much the money, but the experience. They're willing to do whatever it takes for the experience. They want to get paid, and if you're going to give them, as Hearst discovered, if you're going to give them tasks, which are basically clerical tasks, go get my coffee, go take out my laundry, get my shoes done, file papers, those aren't learning experiences. Those shouldn't be called mentoring internships. They're not even, shouldn't be called internships. That's why we've had to differentiate mentoring internships from what we're going to call bad internships, which are really clerical assignments, and they deserve to get paid, and that's why Hearst got hit where it did, and so many other companies did. But if you give them an opportunity to learn and walk away with skills, they get better jobs and better money, and that's really the structure. And you can pay these people while you're doing it as well. It's something we do, and we think it's a terrific thing to do. So for those of you now understand why everyone benefits, and I left out one of the key is the mentors, and we'll talk about how they benefit in a minute as well. Let's just go to the structure of today's meeting. What is mentoring quickly? Make sure you all understand it. Who are the players and how do they benefit, including the mentors? How does a program work, and how can you make a difference? And so with that, let's start with the first question of what is mentoring? Real simple definition. It's a method of teaching and learning where an experienced person, the mentor, the supervisor of the mentee, the student, teaches and trains by sharing the job they're doing. It could be just how working works a difference. It's also being there to answer questions. You know, what do you think about? Where do you think this is going? Having a conversation about relating issues in terms of that might be related to the workplace and careers and things like that. It's about putting someone under your arm and holding them and supporting them and keeping the process on track while the student learns. What are some of the common issues you're going to find in mentoring? Well, here are 5. One is skills, just basic things, how to write, how to use a database. I spend a lot of time teaching people how to use databases well, what kind of software you might be using, financial, PowerPoint, things like that, how to make great presentations. No schools really spend time on this stuff, and it may not be what they're appropriate for them to do because most of those people aren't in a workforce where they understand the value of quality presentation and how it would make a difference. So it's a great place in a company which is winning big deals and wants to know how to do it. It's the subject matter. Is it research, marketing, law? What are you trying to talk about now? It's work-based habits. How do you manage time? Big issue for people in companies. Big issues, obviously, the new people coming into companies, like interns. Interpersonal relations, communication, things like that. It's about organizational issues, both internal accountability, authority, culture, structure. It's also the external, how people perceiving your brand value and how do you handle that. And ultimately, it's about career path. Charles Steinberg talked about the issue about speaking up. One of my clients, CEO of a major company, he always talks about getting out and speaking out because that's something we all have to learn to do by taking the initiative, by having a breadth and depth of our professional issues and feeling confident enough to do that. How that plays out could be the mentoring issues that you deal with when you're doing your mentoring. So let's go through the 4 parties and see really how it all works. The first one is what we call an MPC, a mentor program coordinator. It could be the HR person. It could be just a normal person. I was in charge of research and evaluation for my first company, brought in an intern, then a second, then 8, and we expanded. And so I played, pseudo HR, but I was the MPC for these interns as we grew the things. I was the mentor because I supervised them many times in my companies. I have my other people do it, and it's a great way to watch them practice their skills. Obviously, it's the students. And there's a real interesting feedback loop here, and that is the school career advisors ask any of them what they would love, and they would love to have more opportunities. When students come back and say they've had a great opportunity, you've helped them as well. What does the MPC do? You identify the needs of the departments for projects that they might have and the possible recruitment. It means you're really asking around. So, for example, when I had a number of people in the healthcare area wanting to learn more about the educational process of patients and clinics, I talked to the clinic directors and said, how could they help you in this way? Sit in and listen and hear how education takes place. And so you help other people within the company take it over to do it. It helps you, what the person has to do then is set up the program. That involves recruitment. You have to have a way of recruiting students from local schools or other schools that you may have, or technical schools. You want to also recruit the mentors. You want to show people that this is a giving. One of the interesting parts we've discovered in the 9 months or so that we've been launched, since we've launched Mentor Our Kids in version A, which we call the alpha stage, is that parents love our program more than anything because they keep sending us letters. I must get at least 2, 3 a week. Oh, I heard about Mentor Our Kids. Can you help my kid get an internship? Just got one yesterday. And that's not what we do. We have companies offer those things. And the point is you can do that. And so parents understand it, and therefore they're very amenable to becoming mentors of other people's kids because they wish someone to do it for them. Then you have to match them. I worked for years with a company matching mentors, and in this case, novices, a company with an mentee, and we spend a good deal of time going through the list to try to find the right match. And I would guess I've tried to have 100 teams, and I don't think we've only once had a team, and even that one case was the two of them, it was just one of them, it was just a problem in terms of the schedule and assignment that had changed from the time they accepted the position to the time which they executed. So if you spend a good amount of time, you can do it with the right people and really make a difference. And you can implement locally because you're going to help set up for mentors the goals and the students, and then hold them accountable for being able to do it. You monitor the progress. You launch good onboarding. You do a progress in the middle, how's it going, and at the end, seeing from everyone's perspective that everyone gained fit and everyone was. Now, the second part within the company is the actual supervisor becomes a mentor. That person is an expert, a coach, a counselor, a tutor, a guide, a big brother, a big sister. It varies. The point is the role is that not just providing technical information, but also providing support information. Why is culture important? Communication important? What's appropriate in writing a memo? All kinds of things. The key to that person is to be willing to give the time and energy to do it, but it's also important to figure out what jobs to give the person to do. I run 2, 3 interns at a time. I do it because I want them to share with one another, and while each works on a project, they learn about the other people's work through their projects, through our listening to conversations, and then helping each other, etc. I call it osmosis because they're learning from about many other things through the interaction with other people. So they're clearly able to do that. And the goal really for the mentor is to optimize the doing and learning, making sure the lot gets done for the company and the student learns. The mentors benefit in a lot of ways. We all feel good being a teacher and a coach. We can improve our own work-related skills. And what I mean by that is I get a lot of time, mentor calls up and says, I'm having the following problem in delegating and holding someone accountable and time management. I'm not sure what to do. How can I help them? As part of our service companies, we serve that kind of support advisory function, and the net result of it is that we're able to help them answer that question and get them to do better. So I very often will teach them new tricks that they would never have learned before, and that they can use them themselves so they become better communicators, better delegators, etc. They contribute more to the company because they're actually more productive, and their morale is better because they know they're really contributing at 2 levels. The company is smart. They recognize them. The company that I mentioned that did this for 7 years of piloting this concept of mentorship. At the end of the cycle, it was a 12-week cycle actually in this case, we would take the people out to lunch. We'd have this massive conversation of what they got out. Company basis made a point of coming there and acknowledging the people with gifts and other public acknowledgments. And finally, knowing that you help someone make a better decision. So I had one person who was pretty once, I use that example, and discovered working just before it came to us was that person went to a hospital to do some internship there and discovered they can't stand the sight of blood. And now what do? Rather than just leave, someone refer them to us. We put them in a clinic situation to see a different client. How health is about education, it's about culture, it's about planning, it's about turning the locus of control for one's life and health of the person rather than making them just a recipient of services given by an emergency room or a hospital, and actually launch that person's career path. So it's another way to do it. So there's many, again, as I mentioned, school counselors, actually, let me go back to school. The mentees obviously benefit. One of the key benefits, by the way, that people miss, which is very important, is that students learn what they don't know. And when they learn they don't know something, if they're doing it while they're in school, which is what we recommend very highly taking sophomore and juniors, they can change their courses. They can take more statistics. They can take a presentation communication course. They can't do that if they've waited till they finish school because they're not going to learn it. So they learn what they know and what they don't know. So people learn psychology but decide they want to focus on the course, and vice versa. So there's an ability that they discover social media as a powerful tool for branding, for public relations, for communication. It becomes an opportunity to learn more about it. So mentees learn lots of different ways. They learn what's really true about companies. They learn about the culture. They learn about careers. All of that benefits the employee. The mentee. And as I said, it's not our direct focus, but we know we're helping them because we get the feedback from these advisors that they find which are better places that they can send people to, B, if the company really appreciated it, they open up new slots very often so that people can get it, not just summer, but all year round, how to structure a program. So they have a greater number and quality of places with which to send people. They can spend more time recruiting internally qualified people and organization. So let's talk now about how to launch your program. Okay. So again, the MPC, the mentor program coordinator, is going to be in charge. How do they do that? The first thing is they have to identify the types of insurance they want. So they've gone to the company and they've covered accounting, someone in supply chain. They're all looking for different kinds of students. Someone in the library, someone in research analysis. They're all looking for different things. Then they second have to find those people who mention it and say to them, listen, it's going to take you a little bit of time. There's a program that we're using to offer this. It won't take up a lot of your daily time. Just will periodically take up, a couple of hours to attend the meeting, etc. But what you get out of it is more extra time and energy and enthusiasm. For example, here at Presentation Excellence Group, what we tend to do is when we take interns, we take them for a semester at a time. They have to do a minimum of 15 to 20 hours during the fall and spring, 32 to 40 during the summer, so that they can get involved with quality. They're working on something which generates money. They should be paid for money. And if you're going to give them a chance not to learn anything, then they absolutely have to get the minimum wage or more. We recommend $10 an hour is kind of the going rate to make everybody feel good and easy to measure. Point is you work it out. If you're a nonprofit or some other company working on a research project where the person's going to learn and it's just something and a student can get credit from school, you can sometimes do it that way as well. The trick is you've got to set the parameters what the company wants to do, what's right for the students, because we want to always do what's legally and ethically correct. The key part behind high ROI is evaluation. How much time is going into it? How much time is getting out of it? What's improvement? What are the benefits, etc. So, for example, those people who wait 2.5 to 3 hours to get started and got them out in between 45 minutes and an hour and 15 minutes. So I don't know how to quantify the amount of time it took for the interns to work and the thousands, tens of thousands of patients, customers, consumers, whatever, who would come in and save time and energy. There was never a question about it. The evaluation was very clear. It was very good. But the real key here is to systematize it. That's really what Mentor Our Kids is about, creating a systemized system that you can use that's providing structure, that's providing support, that works on an ongoing basis with self-sustaining. And that's really the goal, that it can run one time after the other and expand, and you can do more. You don't have to spend a lot of time on it. Everyone knows what they're doing and how they're doing it. That's the key. You're not reinventing the wheel. It becomes very, very cost effective. How do you do it? You set specific measurable goals. For those of you who know what a SMART goal is on the right, you don't need to read it. For those of you, that's why we've listed it. You have the very specific goals that are measurable, achievable by the person, realistic within the time frame that you're working for. Time defined. How long is it going to take to do it? You'll determine the scope. How many students, how many mentors. One-on-one, by the way. Qualification for the mentors, level of students. We're actually increasingly recommending people who can't work with seniors in college and I'm sorry, high school and in juniors in high school, because today's kids are way advanced compared to where they were 20 years ago, and they're trying to decide what colleges to go to, what kind of courses to take, doing computer science or engineering, or both. Is physics or chemistry really going to be better for them? Making those decisions early on is going to help them, and we found there are a lot of very, very bright high school, college students who can do that. You don't have to wait for graduate school. So it's no longer where the only time you're going to offer an internship, which many big companies do for the banks, the pharmaceuticals, they take kids in graduate school, they give them internships, are paid, which lead to recruitment positions, and that's fine. But where our advocacy here is with younger people, high school even, college, early years of college, so they can use the experience, move the educational needle in the right direction. And then what you have to do is codify the system for future use. That's really what you want to do to make sure that people can do this again over and over again. And as I said, 2 cycles, about 70 years. And it was a different program. It was mentors with internal novices, new people in the company that were menteed. The point is the same idea. Again, the issues, we'll spend a little more time on it. Most people don't know how to manage their time well. I spent a lot of time through the presentation, excellent groups of subsidiaries, teaching people both one-on-one and groups or whatever on time management. I actually taught this summer in China a course on entrepreneurship. And a couple of days before the end, another teacher got sick and they asked me could I fill in, and it's on financial management. I said I really don't feel qualified to do that well, but if you'd like, I'll come up with a couple of different topics that might be very useful, and I suggested one on negotiation because everyone has to do it, and one on time management. And the raise of from the students learning something as they're about to graduate college that could help them was astronomical. And the dean called me and said, I don't know what you did, but like, wow. And it was just, a couple of nights that I was filling in on this thing. People don't know time management, how to do it, coming up with tools and using them well. Project planning, organizational tools similarly. Interpersonal communication skills, everything from doing it properly to knowing which to do. When do you send an email? When do you call? When do you text? Why does it matter? All of those issues have to be resolved. Who do you CC? And how do you make sure that it's using resources as well, not everyone in the world? You want to overcome people's speaking fears, people's presentation skills. And again, many people are introverts. The biggest fear, again, presentation excellence has been around for, which is our hub, over 15 years. We're the successor to Bring In Image, which was a pioneer in the computer graphic presentation area. We serve over 5,000 clients who focus many of them Fortune 500 companies, investment banks, IPOs, PR firms, etc. So we have really the toughest speakers, and I can tell you the single biggest issue is anxiety. And where does that come from? It comes from not feeling comfortable with presenting because no one's presented the equation correctly, which is why we teach people and show people how to do it, and they're able then to overcome these speaking fears and improve their skills. And then what happens is they then start being promoted and move up the ladder very quickly. So for someone who's looking to get into a job and doesn't want to be at the lowest rung all their life, and this is an issue, it's the kind of thing you can focus in on by watching people and learning from them and doing some drafting. It's a great thing for interns to do is draft presentations. And acquire technical skills. I very often work with, you want to learn. I want to learn how to use Excel. I want to learn how to use a database. I want to learn a little Portuguese, which I know you're using because we're in Brazil, whatever the case may be. And ultimately how to be a great team member. Students are increasingly, I teach at Peru, increasingly being forced to work in teams to learn it and practice it. But again, the structure isn't as concrete because let's be real, after a semester you leave, so you can just play the game or not and you can get out of it. trick is what happens when you work for 5 years with a team. How do you really work with them and work effectively? You want to identify for the mentor what I call executive development issues. This is a big issue for those of you who know. I work with Vistage. 18,000 CEOs are part of Vistage. I have my own group here in New York. And our focus is on helping them develop their skills to be more effective at what they do. And now Vistage has a new program called Vistage Inside, where we actually work with the executive team inside the company, kind of like a Vistage group, for continuous learning to help improve their ability to be aligned, to collaborate, and help the next gen fill in. All of these are kinds of issues that affect every mentor, and it's the same thing. What are the skills they need? How do they learn it? How do they encourage creativity and innovation? How can they do that? These are the kinds of issues that you can see executives want to know more of. And what's wonderful is you can build that in as part of a gift of being a mentoring kids program, mentoring internships program rather, because they can learn this stuff and they're going to feel better about it. So they can develop as executives. In fact, I gave you an example before of this one company I worked with for 7 years. What's been interesting is my mentees in year 1, by year 3, 4, were becoming mentors of other people. And people who were middle managers who generally were the mentors were now becoming senior managers. So we've actually accelerated, we were told, the process by which people moved up the ladder. Part of it's setting the expectations, okay? What do you want from your mentors, and how do you want them to operate? So you might want them to be more productive by delegating work that they can to interns. Learning how to do that on an intern is a great opportunity because mistakes can be made, and when you've learned it well, you're going to do it with your staff better. You can train them and supervise them. You can evaluate progress. All of these things lead people to understand they're going to learn something and be held accountable. You need to help set the goals for what's going to happen, and what you really want to do is make sure that everyone has the tools necessary. And that could be forms, could be paper, could be online, things that allow people to hold accountable. Actually, we're in the system. It's codenamed AMP for Accountability Management Platform that can be applied a lot of different ways to help both interns and mentors, but it's also being used for CEOs and executives. So it's a new tool we're building for this reason. So one of the things that I want to sum up is, which is our tagline, if you've noticed, is for mentor our kids, is that everyone wins. This is not a place where just students win, company wins, community wins, mentors win, everybody wins. So what we want to do is help you create a ROI program. And the way we do that is we come in as a consultant and help you figure out what are the tools and the guidance you need to do it. It may be coming up with a manual to give people an idea of what's being done, putting things online so people can find it through a wiki, providing a support system of talking to other mentors and NPCs, again, mentoring program coordinators in other companies, so you have a peer group to share ideas with and see how it works. We help you build a program to evaluate the program, both from the time it starts launching to the midpoint to the end. In other words, having a three-way race of watching the entire process take place, and how are you going to help the people do it the best. The key is what Mentor Our Kids as an organization does is serve as an advisor to you, helping fill in the process, keeping the train on track. So what you're doing is providing enormous value, again, to your company, your investors, your consumers, the community, the mentors, and the mentees. This is the key to the whole thing. And if you listen to our advice and you follow it, you'll be what we call a mentoring hero, because you've proven that you can make a difference, and you're helping young people understand when they're ready how they can make a difference. And that's what we want to do, is encourage people to see it. A little bit about me, because I know I got a couple emails we're talking, people actually chatting, I should say, and telling me how to know all this stuff. Well, I'm trained as a psychologist and an attorney, but my focus is always applied, and so I've been working for the last 2 decades with companies, changing systems, and helping people, and my focus is helping people realize their potential. That's my mission in life, my why. Too many people don't realize it both from an understanding point of view and from an actual achievement point of view, and that's what we try to do. And for that, we have to help people, and we have to help systems. as a social personality psychologist, I do both. As a lawyer, I focus on systems. Not so much the legalities that can come up, but much more it's providing the structure and the systems that are going to help people do it. As a psychologist, we focus on the soft systems, the use of support systems, whether it's like we have LinkedIn group right now, which people can use to learn more about LinkedIn, but it can be other kinds of systems, both verbally or it can be in writing. We combine the two. Everybody needs something different. I've actually, as I mentioned earlier, had over 500 interns. Most Mentor Our Kids work's being done with me and interns because I want them to learn it and eventually take it over. That's our structure of how we try to do it. And we've had students do it. In fact, the launch of Mentor Our Kids in New York City last, I think it was May, was Louise's job. That was her job when she came in. She came in from a Scandinavian country to help us do it. And she learned all about how to do it, and it's really terrific. I chair right now the Presentation Excellence Group. You can check out the website, presentationexcellencegroup.com, and you'll learn more about all the different services we offer companies and individuals, of which Mentor Our Kids is just our passion in terms of helping people grow forward. And we'd be glad to help you as well about that. With that, I want to thank you for attending, and at this point, remind you about some of the upcoming webinars that are coming up so that you can attend them. Next week, for example, is use commanding strategies to dominate the competition. There are people, there's a Columbia professor who just says there's no such thing as sustainable competitive advantage anymore. We disagree, and in fact, can take it to the next level. Take a company like Apple, for example. You can see they have what we call a commanding strategy. We'll follow that up with what makes companies possible to do this, becoming an innovative organization, creating the systems and structure necessary to unleash people's creativity. We've actually launched a new workshop we do with teams called Let's Get Creative to Stimulate Innovations. And we do offer that as a new program through Getaway Workshops or Commanding Strategies. And finally, the very last one is one that I had a lot of requests for, and so we've saved that till the end as we take a look at the end of the year and the beginning of next year. How do we help cultivate the next-gen leaders so that they're capable, they hit the road running and they know what to do, capable of taking over the company and running it for? All of those, like me, were part of that baby boom and want to be able to make a difference. With that, I will take any questions you have. I'm going to refer everybody, I'm just going to write it down. If you go to Mentor Our Kids and you go to our resources page, we have a number of articles. The most recent article, Wall Street Journal, that came out talking about the fact that 40% of all young people are underperforming is really an astounding number that needs to be addressed now. And you can read about that and share it with other people as social support for why they should be having interns year round. So that's the real question. So thank you, Mary, for asking me where they can get some articles. Go to our resources page. We actually just listed one from an intern's point of view of what to look for in a job. As somebody recently said, it's not just selling, it's understanding the buyer. And so we try to do that too. If there are any other questions, you can share them now. You have my email there. It's jcon@mentorourkids.org. And you're welcome to send it to me, request at any time. I look forward to hearing from all of you about how you've expanded your mentoring program for interns and that you've in turn taken some of what we've given you today as a tool to help you do an effective job. With that, I want to thank you very much for coming. And most important, what I want to do for many of you is wish you a great Thanksgiving. If you're in the United States, it's our holiday, and most of you are. Have a great Thanksgiving.